If God's will for you is complete peace and joy, unless you experience only this, you must be refusing to acknowledge His will. His will does not vacillate, being changeless forever. When you are not at peace, it can only be because you do not believe you are in Him. Yet He is all in all. His peace is complete, and you must be included in it. His laws govern you because they govern everything. You cannot exempt yourself from His laws, although you can disobey them. Yet if you do, and only if you do, will you feel lonely and helpless, because you are denying yourself everything. This is another way of saying that the root cause of our distress has nothing to do with anything external. Rather, our feeling lonely and helpless comes from the mind's belief that the impossible is true. We can exist in a state separate from the oneness of God. St. Paul's all in all, 1 Corinthians 15:28. Yet the atonement happily reminds us that despite the ego's nightmares of disobedience and futile rebellion, we can never leave God's changeless laws of love and creation. We turn now to the undivided will of the sonship, the section I mentioned in the introduction. That was a long time ago. Can you be separated from your identification and be at peace? Dissociation is not a solution, it is a delusion. The delusional believe that truth will assail them, and they do not recognize it because they prefer the delusion. Jesus is implying that when we are not at peace, it is because we separated from our identity as God's Son. Dissociation, another term for describing the dynamic of splitting off unacceptable thoughts, keeps the thought system of separation intact and is the ego's solution to its perceived problem of the mind. Our power to choose the truth of oneness is the ego's great threat, and so it deludes us into thinking we are separate and mindless individuals, a dissociated identity in which we revel. Judging truth as something they, the delusional, do not want, they perceive their illusions which block knowledge. Help them by offering them your unified mind on their behalf, as I am offering you mine on behalf of yours. Alone we can do nothing, but together our minds fuse into something whose power is far beyond the power of its separate parts. By not being separate, the mind of God is established in ours and as ours. This mind is invincible because it is undivided. Later we will discuss what it means to present a unified mind to the delusional world and how that forms the basis of forgiveness and healing. Suffice it for now to say that our function here is to remind each other that true power rests in oneness, reflected in recognizing our shared need and interests. Power does not rest in anything that a separated or discrete individual does. Jesus is our model for this happy truth of salvation by teaching that we all share His power and glory. Indeed, we are this power. Indeed, we are this power and glory because it is shared by the sonship, unifying what had appeared to be divided. The undivided will of the sonship is the perfect Creator being wholly in the likeness of God, whose will it is. You cannot be exempt from it if you are to understand what it is and what you are. By the belief that your will is separate from mine, you are exempting yourself from the will of God, which is yourself. Yet to heal is still to make whole. Therefore, to heal is to unite with those who are like you, because perceiving this likeness is to recognize the Father. If your perception is in Him and only in Him, how can you know it without recognizing Him? The recognition of God is the recognition of yourself. There is no separation of God and His creation. Significantly, Jesus has stated here what will become the basis of forgiveness. Therefore, to heal is to unite with those who are like you, because perceiving this likeness is to recognize the Father. We will discuss this briefly below and more comprehensively when we come to chapter 9. We will also discuss what it means to be separate from God and then to be joined with Him. In the final sentence above, we find another statement of the atonement principle. The separation from our source never happened except in dreams. This passage continues Jesus' hymn to the oneness of the sonship and prefigures His central message of not seeing differences where none exist, but instead looking through Christ's vision to the true sameness or likeness of God's Son. And I am going to go ahead and stop there today.